Welcome to So You Don't Like, a series dedicated to picky eaters and the people who have to accommodate them. Each episode will focus on a specific ingredient people tend to really dislike. Usually when people don't like something, they've maybe never had it cooked correctly, they don't like the texture of the ingredient, or they just outright don't like the taste of it. So in each episode, I'll be showing you a classic way to cook the ingredient on its own, a way to make the texture way more delicious, and a way to completely alter the flavor of the ingredient. So you don't like mushrooms? Well, I've got you covered.
Mushrooms themselves are an incredibly broad category of ingredients that aren't quite an animal or a vegetable. Their broadness makes them especially tricky for a picky eater, especially someone with texture issues. The texture of a cremini mushroom is going to be a lot different than something like an enoki mushroom. Those are those white ones that look like noodles. However, there's one secret about mushrooms that actually work in our favor. They are pretty close to impossible to overcook. The structure of a mushroom is basically a network of root-like cells called mycelium. The space between these cells is mostly water and air, but the cells themselves are pretty much heat stable. What this means is the water and air may cook out, but the cells don't get mushy or tough due to the heat. This is perfect for us picky eaters because we can cook the mushroom pieces until they're deeply browned and crunchy without any concern for overcooking them. A lot of people have talked about this in depth, and I'll link to an amazing video about mushrooms here by America's Test Kitchen. But one way we can bring out a depth of flavor in the mushrooms is by cooking them in water before sauteing them in oil. This also keeps the mushrooms from absorbing a ton of oil while they saute, so it's a win-win. We'll cook them for a while to get some nice texture, and we'll boil them first to get a better flavor. That alone should go a long way for people that hate undercooked and rubbery mushrooms. For our first classic recipe, I'll pull together both of these concepts to make some sauteed shiitakes with garlic and thyme, perfect for accompanying a nice steak or chicken breast. The easiest way I find to clean a mushroom is to just give it a good wipe down with a dry napkin or paper towel. This gets rid of most of the dirt, and anything left won't by any means be noticeable. I have close to half a pound of shiitakes here, but keep in mind that these are going to lose a ton of water weight during the cook. I like to remove the stems, but they're definitely edible, so you can leave them on. Cut the mushrooms into bite-sized pieces with the fact that they're going to shrink in mind. I went small here, but it's up to you. If you've got half a pound of mushrooms, 1 clove of garlic mince should be good here. I'll also finely chop a sprig of thyme. Thyme and mushroom both have a nice woodsy flavor, so they go well together. I'll grab a saute pan and then get that over medium-high heat. Add your chopped mushrooms along with enough water to pretty much cover them. This isn't an exact science as the water will cook off, and we already established that we can't really overcook them. Cook them over medium-high until the water is pretty much completely gone. Once you're there, add a squeeze of olive oil. From here, keep them moving in the oil with the intention of getting them deeply browned. As they get close to finishing, you can add your chopped garlic clove. Let the raw garlic cook out, add your thyme, and turn off the heat. From there, you can season these with salt and pepper, and you are good to go. This is so much better than undercooked, underbrowned sauteed mushrooms. If you're kind of mushroom curious but need a classic recipe to try, give this one a shot at your next dinner. If you've got a problem with the texture of mushrooms, why not break them down into a beautiful, creamy gochujang pasta? We'll add a little sausage as well to make even the most staunch mushroom haters happy. We'll start with around 150 grams or 5 ounces of cremini mushroom. Clean them with a dry cloth and then remove the stem if you'd like. With a large knife, begin breaking down the mushrooms by cutting the caps in half through the middle. Then make slices into those halves, turn them 90 degrees, and then make slices that way. Don't worry about getting these perfect. In the end, I'm just going to pile them up and chop away until they're fine pieces. This could be done really easily in a food processor, but who's got time to get one of those out and clean them? This is also a good time to get a pot of salted water boiling for our pasta. With your mushroom pile broken down, set that aside and finally mince 1 large shallot along with 2 garlic cloves. The last things needed for our sauce are 2 links of mild Italian sausage. That's roughly equal to the amount of mushroom that we have. 1 tablespoon of gochujang. This is that Korean red pepper paste that tastes amazing. 60 mils or around 2 ounces of heavy cream, and a small knob of grated Parmesan, roughly 10 grams or so. I like around 300 grams of rigatoni for this. That's about 2/3 of a 1-pound bag. That's it. We can head over to the stove to build our sauce. The sauce comes together pretty quick, so you can start cooking your pasta at around the same time. Add a squeeze of olive oil to a Dutch oven over medium-high heat. Let that get nice and hot and then drop in your sausage. Let that fry until nicely browned and then remove them from the heat. Set them aside and then add enough water to cover the bottom of the pan. To the water, add your finely chopped mushrooms and let them cook until all the water has pretty much evaporated. Keep them moving around as they go, and once the water is almost gone, add another small amount of olive oil. That should be enough fat along with the sausage fat from earlier. Once the water is completely gone, the oil will take over and start frying those pieces. This may seem like a big pile of mushrooms, but they're going to shrink down a ton as they begin to fry. As they start taking on color, add your shallot and garlic to the pan. They will sweat and fry along with the mushrooms. After a few minutes of cooking, the garlic and shallot should be nicely softened, so we can add our sauce component. Gochujang can be a little hard to mix in on its own, so I like to add a splash of water to the gochujang just to make it a little looser. Let that cook until the pan looks dry again, and then add your sausage back into the pan. Turn the heat down to low and add your heavy cream along with an equal amount of pasta water. Don't worry about getting the perfect sauce consistency right now, we'll be able to easily adjust it later. The heavy cream needs a little time on low heat until it really begins to thicken, but this should leave just enough time for the pasta to finish. Once your pasta is al dente, drain it and add it to the sauce pot. Give that a few good mixes, and now is when we'll adjust the final seasoning and texture. Add a little salt if needed, along with any water to make the sauce glossy and beautiful. Turn off the heat, add your Parmesan cheese, and stir it until it's completely mixed and melted. This should be coating the noodles without leaving a ton of sauce at the bottom of the pan. If it does that, add more parm. If it looks too dry, add a little more water. This pasta is spicy, creamy, and much more flavorful than just a normal sausage rigatoni. If you aren't accustomed to eating mushrooms, you'll be blown away at the depth of savory flavor that they bring. Megan Kay said she was really surprised at how good the whole dish tasted, and that's the power of mushrooms at work. If you're somebody that's fine with the texture of mushroom but absolutely despises the flavor, let me introduce you to these smoky mushroom tacos. We'll start by cleaning and trimming the end off of 300 gram or 10 ounces of king oyster mushrooms. These are also called trumpet because, well, they kind of look like trumpets. The cool thing about these bad boys is that the stems can be shredded with a fork to give a really nice shredded meat type texture. Use a fork to do the shredding and simply tear the caps into pieces around the same size as the shreds. This will be the filling for our tacos, and we'll mix in some barbecue/liquid smoke to really up the smoky deliciousness. If you can, try to get this brand of liquid smoke. It's much less intense and it's easier to cook with. I'm not sponsored, it's just what I like using. Mix 2 to 3 drops of it into 50 milliliters of your favorite barbecue sauce, along with 50 mils of water. The water is really there to just thin out the barbecue sauce so it doesn't get too thick too quick. Top your tacos however you like, but I think it's nice to have a little crunchy slaw with a lemony chipotle sauce for some tang on top. I just grabbed some pre-cut slaw from a bag and then mixed in a large squeeze of lemon, enough Kewpie mayo to coat everything, and a few dashes of chipotle tabasco. Simple, quick, and good enough for a couple tacos. The filling will be enough for 2 tacos, so divide your slaw accordingly. We're going to do the same boil mushroom technique from before, so add your shredded mushroom to a pan with water to cover. Again, cook that over medium-high heat until the water is almost completely gone. Add a touch of olive oil to the pan close to the end so we can start getting them a little crispy. Season this with salt and pepper and continue moving them around/scraping the pan as they're prone to sticking in this initial phase. Let them go and get good and brown at this point, and then you can add your barbecue sauce and water mixture. My camera battery died here, so adding the barbecue sauce is not pictured. I added a few shakes of garlic powder and a little chili flake along with it, just for a touch of spice. Let the water cook out and reduce it until about half. Remove the mushroom mix from the pan and place it under the broiler for a minute or 2 over high. If you do this on high, you can get a nice little bit of charring on the mixture, which tastes really, really nice. However, depending on the sugar levels of your barbecue sauce, this can burn, so watch it like a hawk. Wipe out your pan and we'll use that to warm the tortillas. I'm using store-bought tortillas here, and they're actually larger than the size that you want, but my store didn't have any other options. Go a little smaller on the tortillas than I did. With your mushroom mixture nicely charred from the oven, the slaw ready, and the tortillas warm, we can build our tacos. Mushroom mix down, then the slaw, and then I like to dot a little bit of that chipotle hot sauce on it, but you know I love hot sauce at this point. These are smoky, salty, and crunchy from the slaw, but best of all, they taste nothing like a mushroom. The flavor is hidden by the barbecue sauce, and the liquid smoke/cooking method makes this whole thing taste kind of like a pork taco. They're pretty baller.
No.
This is your YouTube channel.
Do it. Act.
Welcome to the least interesting segment you've ever watched.
How did you cook these dishes?
I
Tell me what you did.
left the house.
So these are the dishes we came up with for So You Don't Like Mushrooms. So it made something pretty approachable and something I think is really, really delicious.
For the different iterations for this pasta, the first one, the chunks of mushroom were big enough to where I would just pick around it, and the flavor was really good, but kind of realized I need to be fooled and not know that there's mushroom.
Yeah, the whole point of this is not to make something where you're going to pick around the thing that you don't like. Like that, that's not helping anybody.
I can't pick around the mushroom in this, and I now appreciate the flavor of mushroom. This pasta, it has this earthy, woodsy taste that I've never had before because I always avoid mushrooms, and now I get it. And so I feel like this pasta is a really approachable way to learn how to like mushroom and get the flavor notes without struggling with the texture, because I feel like that's always my biggest obstacle with mushroom in general. And now this is one of my favorite pastas that you cook.
These are, to me, kind of insane. It tastes like a pork taco. Like, I don't know, it's just really good, really approachable. Texturally doesn't feel like a mushroom at all.
If you're like me and you don't like mushroom. I dare you to try these. Double dare.
Now you gotta do it.
Because you just might change your mind.
I bet you won't. There's no way you could even eat these mushrooms at all. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead and subscribe and like the video if you really, really liked it. Comment down below anything you don't like and would love to see in the series. If you want a video explaining why we cook and why we love doing this whole thing in general as humanity, check out my last video on why we cook, and I think you'll get a lot out of that one. Cheers.